All right, Kira.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm really well. I'm having a good day, good weekend. This festival has just been everything we hoped it would be, and we've been working so hard for all these months that it's really lovely to see it come together.
I know. Can you believe that we're actually doing Lambtown right now?
Right?
Yeah. So just quickly, for those of you who haven't, like maybe didn't join us yesterday, so both Kira and I are on the board for Lambtown. So Kira's in charge of the classes, and so we've been working very hard together for the past year to put on this event. So we've been talking to each other in a lot of different roles, but Kira and I are also longtime friends. So it's kind of fun to be talking and interviewing her more formally here. And wait, Kira, are you doing my interview?
I am. I'm going to interview Brooke tomorrow, so everyone will know.
So we're going to do this all again, but we're going to do it in reverse tomorrow. So, oh, and apparently Mia says hi to you, Kira. Amy and Mia are in the chat. So, anyway, so we'll put on our other hats of me as the interviewee and you as vendor Kira of Kira K Designs, and we can get started, okay? So let's see here. I've spotlighted you, so everybody's seeing you, and you know, tell us how you got started doing Kira K Designs and kind of what your design philosophy is.
Sure. So I've always been crafty, especially in the fiber arts realm. My first fiber art was crocheting when I was 3 years old. And then since then I've done knitting and sewing and spinning, which is how I met Brooke, and weaving and tatting and pretty much everything. If it's got, yarn or fabric, that I've at least given it a try. In terms of designing, I was working at a yarn shop and just making stuff up for myself and playing around and experimenting and making mistakes and trying it again. And my customers kept wanting to make whatever it was I was wearing that day. And I'd say, oh, I just made it up. You can do it too. Go for it. Have fun. And people didn't like that answer. So after a couple of years, I gave in and started writing things up and discovered that the easier part, at least for me, of designing knitting and crochet patterns is the idea and making the prototype. And the harder part is scaling that to various sizes and having it make sense, especially in a wider size range for garments, and doing all the math of that and explaining ideas clearly and all of that. It's not what I'm always in the mood for at any given time of day or the week, and especially recently with life being a little crazy. But that's been, let's see, I started publishing patterns in 2007. So it's been 13 years now, and I've got currently 111 designs with a few more that are on the way.
Congratulations.
And I do want to just share a screen if, oh good, I have powers, thank you.
Yeah.
Something that I created for the Lambtown app, which I've been meaning to do for a while, and I will try to keep it updated, is a catalog, because I have so many different patterns that it can be a lot to look through. They're all on my website, they're all on Ravelry, but here in this PDF that you can get in the app, I've got everything shown, and I also have little markers to show if it's crochet or if it's Tunisian crochet, and if I have it as a kit, just to make it really easy, because I do both knitting and crochet patterns and recently some Tunisian crochet. And I know some people do all those crafts like I do, and some people only do one or two of them. And then as you get down here into the accessories, you'll see the little asterisk. That means that I have a kit for it in my online shop. So those are ones where you can get the yarn and the pattern. I also have in the Lambtown Festival app a different PDF that's called Show Special Discounts that people might want to check out as well. There's a deal for kits and a deal for patterns.
That's awesome. And so another thing, so Kira, you have many facets to your business, which I think is pretty incredible. Obviously, you are a designer, as you mentioned, and you also mentioned that you put together kits, and your focus for your kits is often smaller producers that are harder to get a hold of. And so by creating the kits, it allows people to get access to them. I'm taking over your description, so I apologize. But you also teach as well. That's another facet of your business. And so are you continuing to teach now that we are doing everything virtually?
I am, yeah. From the very beginning, as soon as we went into shelter in place, I started doing a craft circle that started out once a week, and I had such fun the very first time that I upped it to twice a week. So that's just an online Zoom meeting, totally free. People can come and just hang out, chat about knitting and crochet or other crafts, make things. There's room in there to ask a little question or two. I also have been doing private lessons on Zoom, which has gone better than I expected, because sometimes in classes I literally have to move people's hands around or take their thing and fix a problem and hand it back. But that's worked out pretty well. And then I've also more recently started teaching some classes on Zoom that are a little bit more lecture based, where I've got, slides and talk over it and pause for questions. And I just started recently teaching my after school classes, which is something that I've done for 11 years so far. It's my 12th year, and this time it's all on Zoom. And so middle schoolers, sign in, and I've been teaching them needle felting and embroidery and kumihimo braiding. And this week we did how to do pom-poms, and they just happily made pom-poms for an hour and a half. It was great.
That's awesome. Pom-poms are awesome.
Yeah. And I do want to mention too, what you said about the yarns that I use for my kits, because that's really important to me. On my patterns, I always show at least 2 yarns, often 3 or 4, sometimes a hand spun version where I give reps per inch and all of that. And I do that partially to make it easy for people to find a good yarn for the project. So I try to have a yarn in there that's reasonably easy to find in a local yarn shop. But I also try to always have an indie dyed yarn, because I love those yarns and I love the people behind them. And especially with my kits, some of those are yarns that you're not going to be able to find super easily. Some are ones that are wholesale to yarn shops, although maybe not in every other store. But the kits I do as a way for me to take the yarns that I love, made by people who are friends of mine, and get them out into the world in other hands. And then for me, it's really nice too, beyond that, because it's much more likely that those people who got a kit from me come back the next year wearing it and saying how much they loved it and how it worked great the first time. Whereas if somebody just gets a pattern, that's great, and it's fine with me to do that, but I don't see them coming back next year with a finished project quite as much. The kits are nice because they're just ready to go.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think it's, super exciting to be able to take that and just cast on that evening. It's really, it helps you get over that hump of like it just kind of sitting in stash. Joan was saying that as a hand spinner, she really appreciates having the reps per inch info in your in the patterns that include it, which I think is incredible. And that's something that I've always admired about you, Kira, is the fact that not only do you, at the very least, create swatches for a variety of yarns, but also you go so far as to hand spin yarn and then work up your project in hand spun and show it in that hand spun. I think that's really incredible and very inspiring, because sometimes I think, again, there's kind of this, not always like a roadblock, but sometimes like a speed hump in terms of getting over that transition from, oh, I'm spinning my own yarn to I'm spinning my own yarn for a project. And here it is, like I've actually either knit or crochet or woven it into that project. So it's really inspiring for me personally to see that and see you do that. So, and then you wear them. It's, it's incredible. So I just wanted to give you kudos for that.
That's actually my little trick to get things I get to wear, because normally with my samples, I don't get to wear this much. I wear them for the photos. I wear them maybe to events, but mostly they're packed up in a box or a bin to bring out to yarn shows or trunks shows and just have them be beautiful and pristine. And I get the old shop-worn ones of discontinued yarns 5 years later. So as an effort to have more things for me to wear that were fresh and nice and new, I started using my hand spun yarns to do my patterns, because I won't just stick those in a box.
Yeah, that's really smart. And I have somebody asking where they can find the information about your craft circle. Where would they go to find that?
All over the place. So my website is kirakdesigns.com. I'm Kira K Designs on Instagram. I'm in the vendor app. All those places have links to my craft circles, which happen on Monday and Thursday mornings, 10:30 to 11:10. And they're really just lovely. I've enjoyed having something on the schedule was a big deal in April because nothing was on my calendar. Little different now, but we've got a really nice group of regulars with a range of ages. Mia, who said hi earlier, I think she's 4, and she joins with her mom and tells us about her craft projects. And she's just super fun. And then we've got people from all over the country come in. The core group is local people who I know personally, but other folks come in and it's really just nice to have new faces. So please do come by and say hi if you have a chance on a Monday or Thursday morning.
That's great. I think that's really wonderful. And how long do they last approximately? I'm sorry.
40 minutes. We started that when I had just the free Zoom account, and I've since upgraded since I'm teaching, but I checked in and everyone's like, yeah, 40 minutes is good.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go 5 minutes over if we're having a great conversation, but never really more than that.
That's awesome. And so one of the things that's also really remarkable about you, Kira, is that not only are you just a prolific designer, but you are prolific both in knitting and crochet, and that's pretty rare in terms of designers, at least that I'm familiar with. You know, how did you get started in that, and why do you do that?
You know, from the very beginning, my very first launch was 6 patterns, and there were 3 knit and 3 crochet. Mm-hmm. Because I've always done both, and I think that they have different strengths. Mm-hmm. And some yarns just work out better in crochet stitches, some work out better in knitting. So often what I do as a designer is I'll start with pretty yarn. And I have a couple things that I can show you too. I sometimes have been doing projects lately where a yarn dyer will say, hey, here's a set of yarn that I want to, you know, market. Can you make something to go with it? And that's really fun for me because I have some parameter, like this is the yarn, you don't get any more. Try to use most of it, make it look good. But making yarn look good is kind of where I normally start with a yarn that I buy. I'll do a few swatches, kind of try out some different stitches, see what looks good with the structure of the yarn, and also with the coloration, you know, if it's variegated or gradient, that might affect what design I go into. And also, I just always like to try something new. I love that there are so many new things to learn in this. So one of the patterns that I brought just to show you is my first modular design, which is a knitted pattern. And I'm currently working literally right now on a modular crochet design because the modular thing was really fun. So I'm gonna cover my face up with a pretty shawl.
Ooh, pretty.
So this is called the Prismatic Honey Shawl. Yeah, let me back it up a little, there we go. So this was a set of 10 mini skeins from Wonderland Dye Works that she did for an Advent Club last year. And so the idea was that people would get, you know, open a box every day and make the shawl. And so modular made sense that they could knit the whole first skein before they get to the second one and keep going. So that was really fun to do. I do have kits for this online. And the way that they come is 10 mini skeins that make the hexagons. And then I guess it's sort of a contrast color to that, but a full skein that'll do the edging at the bottom. And then I have another one that's similar with knitted wit yarn. And she does this a lot, having yarn packs for different designers to work with. And this is a crochet pattern. I definitely want to show one of each. So I call this the Cyclic Cowl because it is never-ending rainbows. So this is a nice one for somebody who's newer to crochet or just for somebody who wants a pretty easy project. And what I really love about Laura Jean, who does knitted wit yarn, is that she can make 10 different rainbows. So I can have kits that all have a rainbow, but they're a really different rainbow. So this is the original with that kind of a highlightery rainbow, but I also have one with a bright rainbow and a navy yarn. This is the box they come in, which has a gray rainbow, or sorry, gray yarn and more of a muted rainbow. So that's something that I've been enjoying doing too, is working with the dyers to come up with different color combinations. Because especially with the multicolor projects, a lot of people want a few ideas to get them going, or the kit, so it's all ready to go.
That's wonderful. And what about the project that's behind you on the mannequin?
Yeah, this is a really fun one. This is called the Overlay Cowl, and it's created with yarn from 2 vendors who are always at Lambtown Festival in person, which is Black Diamond Alpacas and Houndstooth Fiber Arts. And this came about because Donna of Black Diamond Alpacas told me that she was going to start dyeing gradient yarn, and I'd never seen a gradient alpaca yarn from an indie dyer elsewhere. So I ordered some sight unseen. She was literally like, her first color, I'm like, yeah, I want that one. Send it to me. And got it in advance. And I paired it with a yarn from Houndstooth Fiber Arts that has just a little bit of shine to it and a little different texture because the alpacas flattens out a bit. So this is a yarn that's a little rounder, so it really, really shows nicely. And I love gradient yarns because they're so exciting to work with. You just want to keep seeing like, what's the next color, what's the next color, what's the next color. So even though this is very big, I was so excited to work on it. So that's a really fun one, and I do have kits for this as well in a few different color combinations, although this one is by far the most popular because it goes with everything. It's just this lovely neutral.
That's awesome. And funnily enough, Houndstooth is right after you, so we'll get to talk to Kristen in just a moment here. But yeah, it's such a lovely project and I agree with you in terms of gradient. It's kind of potato chip knitting. You just can't stop. You just want one more row, one more row, one more row.
Totally. And actually, I happened to see a picture of Krista's setup for today, and she has an overlay cowl in the background of where she'll be talking.
That's so wonderful. So we'll get to see another one in just a little bit.
Yeah,
that's
something
really great.
I love that we have this great community of people in the yarn world here in the Bay Area that work together and collaborate, and that's been growing a lot over the last year or so with the Bay Area Fiber Fair and the Sun and Fog collection, yes, which I'm part of. It's just really nice that we're so supportive and offering help and guidance and suggestions and all that.
Yeah, I agree. And just a reminder for everybody, the Sun and Fog meetup is going to happen this evening at 6. So those of us who were designers or dyers and participated in that are going to all be there, and we hope that you'll join us this evening. So that's just a little plug for that later this evening. We have one more minute. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we sign off at least in this role?
Sure. Yeah. So I love to see what people make with my patterns. That's why I keep doing this and actually doing the effort of writing it up. I'm not getting rich. There are very few knitting and crochet pattern designers who are getting rich off of this, or paying their mortgage just on that. But I love to see what people make. So if you take photos, please tag me on Instagram if you post there, or link it to the pattern on Ravelry if that's where you're working. And if you come to an event where I am a vendor in person, please bring your stuff to show me. I love seeing it, and I even keep little presents in my booth to hand out to people who are walking around a show wearing my designs.
Yeah, Kira is incredibly generous. I just wanted to also say that Kira sent all of us on the board cookies. And so they either arrived yesterday or today. So we all got a cookie delivery in the mail, but normally Kira bakes something for all of these events. So your generous heart is well appreciated, Kira. And I appreciate you joining me today as a vendor. Maya says that your baked goods are awesome. And Susan says, Kira, you're freaking awesome. Thank you. So lots of love in the chat for you. And thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all your hard work on Lambtown. It would not have happened without you. So, and Krista's agreeing with all this. So Krista's going to be up next. But before we say hello to Krista, we're going to say goodbye to Kira. Thank you again. I'm sure we'll see you in the chat, and we'll see you later tonight at the Sun and Fog meetup too.
And I'll see you tomorrow for your interview.
And you'll see me tomorrow for my interview too. Yes, exactly.